So yesterday's paint talk was sort of the first time where I really felt like the brush working the way it's supposed to. Like I could really feel sort of the a grip on the medium. And I think it's interesting because that sort of, I don't want to call it technique, but like fluidity that I felt with the brush for the first time yesterday, happened sort of accidentally, but it was something where I could see it and feel it. It was something I probably could have learned a lot faster. Like I think if I were to start off Paint and Talk by going and watching a YouTube video a day in the middle of painting, I probably could have gotten there faster, no? I mean, it makes sense. I'm sure they tell you the certain way to hold the brush, a certain way to move the brush in the tutorial, and, maybe I could have gotten there within the first 20 Paint and Talks rather than episode, what are we on now? I want to say 65? Are we on 65? I hope so, because I don't want to get that wrong. But I think it's an interesting point because it really made me realize, like, I'm glad I did do that. I think sometimes we get so obsessed with this idea of efficiency in the way we do things that we forget that there is like a really genuine value in just messing up in terms of just kind of taking the scenic route, learning really slowly how to go about things, how to get your feet under you, and it made me think of this quote that I've always loved, and I think it's misattributed to Oscar Wilde. I don't know who actually said it. Yeah, I don't know. I always see it with Oscar Wilde's name next to it, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that he didn't actually say it. But either way, I'll continue. Self-education is the only type of education. Something along those lines, right? And I've always liked that quote because I think it's just true, and it made me think also about the other day when I was finishing up this book, The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. Great book, by the way. Totally recommend now that I finished it. And he said, to art students specifically, but I think it applies to all students, that, great students make the school. And that, like, a school can only, he said, I forget exactly how he worded it, but it was along the lines of, like, you must inform your school, don't let your school inform you. Basically alluding to the fact that, like, great artistry and somebody who's really, doing something, who's really, really doing something special, will inform their surroundings more than their surroundings will inform them. And I think it's interesting because I think that's something I've always thought but not been able to put into words, like, take a school like Harvard. Harvard is a good school, not because it is some magical place where you walk out of there and you're the smartest person on earth. It's because it had a lot of really smart people go to it and give it that name. Obviously, there's like a lot of rich people sending their kids and stuff there, like a whole like lineage of things going on. But if we were to generalize it here, smart people make good schools, not good schools making smart people. And yes, that's why like would probably say that like, if you're in Harvard, you're gonna be smarter than like the average guy on the street, definitely smarter than me. But like, it's important to remember that, the world was not built by people who were geniuses, who were like super well informed or even, smarter than average, if we're being honest. It was just informed by curious people. Like, the world around us is just built by people with a sense of curiosity. And this is something that I learned later in high school that really made me like look at the whole world differently. That like, self-educating is this super interesting process because it allows you to form your like a real independent mind. Like even when you go to school and you're in these classes and you could be learning really great things. I'm not in the camp of people that think school is like lying to you. I don't think that at all. But the point still remains that like you'll still be learning from somebody. You'll still be learning from a perspective. I think political science is something I can speak to fairly easily because I know the field well. And, like that will be completely informed by the Overton window of the time period is what you'll learn in school. And like these things aren't necessarily bad. I don't say this in a way of like, you shouldn't listen to school or anything like that. I say it more so in a regard of like, there will always be a bias. Like there's no way to go through life with like a true free thinking mind, because no matter what, you're going to be informed by something, whether it's the way you're brought up, your socioeconomic status. There's a million little things we could go into. And, realizing this, it kind of made me look at everything so differently, because not so much because of that fact on its own of like, you need to fully self-educate, or at least in large part self-educate to have an independent mind, but more so because it was the first time I was like, wait a minute, like, why haven't I been questioning the way that we do things? Like, why haven't I been questioning how this works? Why is that kid in my class considered smarter because he has a higher grade? And, I think oftentimes I think there's kind of an irony, because this conversations like these definitely turn into almost apologia for like people who have low grades. The classic idea of like the millionaires had the C in the class and paid the A student to do their homework for them. I think that's a super played out idea, and oftentimes just a wrong idea. I think if you look at millionaires, I think it's like 80% of them have college degrees. The truth of the matter is that your school and your degree and your grades do more often than not correlate to the amount of money you're going to make. However, I would argue that I don't see any correlation between that and your intelligence. And it's mainly for this reason, what I'm about to describe. And this is something that I came to the conclusion of in late high school. I might just have gotten paint on my neck. That'll be embarrassing to edit later. But this is a conclusion I came to later in high school that really stuck with me and was like, oh wait, like I don't need to worry about being the dumb kid, because it doesn't really matter. None of that matters. First of all, I want to get one thing out of the way. And this is something that like is not 100% informing what I'm about to say, but it is something that I think is just like important to say. Your grades don't define your intelligence like at all. I knew so many people who had like either like B's or C's, and they were like really smart people. Like it's just like maybe they were busy and didn't study. Like it's nothing of the sort where it's like you got to worry about that stuff. But let's say you are somebody who's like, okay, like I recognize that the smartest kid in my class is more intelligent than me. And I think that often happens. As much as I say your grades don't define your intelligence, I don't think it's uncommon to have a conversation with somebody who's academically, prospering or whatever you want to call it, and be like, you are a smart person. Because oftentimes they are. But it's more about what you're doing over the long term. Your habits define this, right? And this goes back to the conversation we had, oh my God, I want to say it was maybe a week ago. Was it a week ago? Where I was talking about sustainability, right? And how if you plan everything over long periods of time for sustainability's sake, you are going to way surpass everybody. And the same thing happens with, I believe, with intelligence, right? Let's take two kids. Let's take kid A, right? Kid A, that's a Radiohead album. That's gonna mess me up. We're gonna go Kid B and Kid C, because Kid A is already taken by Radiohead. Okay, so Kid B studies, he has amazing grades, he goes home every day, and he studies for the test, and is flying through school, and he's learning information because of it. He can tell you every president in order, he knows all of them really well. He's not like me, who only remembers that James Polk is the 11th president for no reason. I don't know why I remember that. That's the only president I can remember right now, outside of course, Donald Trump, who's the president for number 50, and he remembers all of it. He's really good at remembering facts and information, right? Then you have Kid C, right? Because we're skipping Kid A. Kid C is just like a curious person. Like he like goes on YouTube and like searches up videos about things, and like he's just curious about things. He gets bad grades because he doesn't give a fuck about any of that. Like he just goes home and looks at like YouTube all day. But he's a curious person. Whenever he has a thought of like, what's going on with this? He Googles it. He gets an answer, and he reads books about it too. He thinks it's interesting, and he reads into things he's interested in, but he's failing math, and he hates science, and history is boring to him, but he's really good at, I don't know, pick a field, sociology maybe, whatever you want to say he's good at, right? I think, and I don't want to say no, because like, I don't know, I never want to come to a Paint and Talk and be like, I have a fact to posit for you all, I never want to be that guy, but like, I've seen this be true, and I think all of us have, that Kid C will be so much smarter than Kid B in 10 years. Kid A is a Radiohead album, but Kid C is going to be the smartest one. Because after, let's say, like fast forward, right? So this is a high school. Let's say they continue, they go to the same school. They both go to, let's say they both go to Rutgers, don't know why, just want to choose that one today, and they get out, the same trends continued. They graduate, kid B has a 4.0, he has the internship at Lockheed Martin, he's going to go make bombs, and then kid C had, what do you need to, like, graduate? Like a 2.5 or whatever? I don't know. C's get degrees, and kid C has a C, and he gets the degree. He goes home, and they both go home after this, right? We check up on them in 5 years. Within these 5 years, kid B has been going into work every day, building a bomb, and going home and being like, I don't know why he works at Lockheed Martin. I don't know why that detail got added in here. That's not really relevant here, but he works there, okay? Let's say, okay, so right, he goes home every day, he's tired from work, and he's like, I made it. Like, I already got the job. Like, I'm a corporate guy. This is great. And, like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to go home and eat my pizza. I'm going to play my video games. And, like, I'm good. Like, my life is good, right? And that's awesome. I don't want to shit on that at all. I hate people that shit on that because that's really cool. When you, like, are like, I got the job, I'm stable, I'm good, and I don't care about anything else. Like, this was the goal, right? I think that's awesome, and I think it's very undervalued to be like, I just want to work a 9 to 5 and then have free time for the last 8 hours of the day. I think that's like a completely valid way to live life. I don't hate on that at all, right? But then you have kid C. Remember, C's get degrees, he has his degree. He's also working a job, let's say he's like in like insurance or something. Like he's working like a fairly normal job, nothing like that takes like a massive degree, but like he's doing well, he's doing fine for himself. Same general thing, working the 9 to 5, but when he goes home, because he actually has an interest in learning and curiosity, he's still, whether he knows or not, studying. He's studying things he's interested in, and studying a lot slower than he would be otherwise, because he's just kind of doing it off impulse. He's not really, trying to sit down with a book every day, but he is, by virtue of him being interested in these things, going home, he's reading books, he's still, Googling things he's interested in. Maybe he watches a YouTube video essay a day, and that makes him a genius, because YouTube video essays make you geniuses. We all know this. I learned everything I know from a YouTube video essay. But like, he's doing the thing where he is, just by virtue of liking learning every single day. Whether he realizes it or not, he is still learning. And obviously I want to say, intelligence doesn't really matter. I'm not somebody who like sits around being like, oh my God, I want to be smarter. I try to be a curious person. I think it's important to be a curious person, because, if you just go through life like checking boxes of learning things because you need to learn them, I feel like this is kind of my own philosophy thing of like, I think like it's very good to be a curious person. Like, this isn't really something that like applies to anything. So like, I like to make sure I'm learning all the time. I think that's interesting. I also just have an interest in it. So in a way, I guess, I should be kid C, is what I'm getting at here. No, but that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid. I'm not trying to project onto a scenario here. This is more so just why I think self-education is so important. Especially if you value intelligence. I value curiosity, but if you value intelligence, this is even more applicable, right? Kid C, 10 years later, they meet at a bar. They're at a bar, it's called Joanne's. It's a great bar near both of them. They're both in the big city, and they're both doing fine. Let's say they're just like making money, surviving and stuff, like all of us are. But like, when they come to this bar, it doesn't matter what grades they had. It doesn't matter who they were, what they were doing in high school or in college or in middle school, or God forbid we talk about elementary school, because that's where it all goes wrong, right? Kid C is gonna be way smarter because he's curious, he's staying interested in things, and he's learning, he's still learning. And that is the message that I want to say here. Like, that's why I think self-education is so important. Not because, I have something against the school system. I think it is really important to go to school. And I think it's also worth mentioning here that despite the fact that, yeah, kid B only learned things because he had to in class, he still is probably going to have a higher salary. He's still probably going to have a nicer apartment. All these things still ring somewhat true. As much as they're kind of changing now, they're still somewhat true, right? But if we're just talking about self-education, we're just talking about intelligence and staying curious, 100% being a curious person and just researching things you're interested in will get you so much farther than anything. And I think the reason I say this isn't so much because, I'm trying to do 1.5 GPA propaganda or anything like that, but more so because I've met so many people who, like, they're not dumb, but they just like, they're their grades are worse than maybe the people around them, or they kind of get down on themselves because of that. And it's like, I know them to be such curious, intelligent people. And I think it's important that we all remember sometimes that like yeah, that kid who's grinding it out will oftentimes be doing better in some regards, but like it doesn't make you dumb. Like being curious is what makes you smart, nothing else. I don't think this is wrong scientifically, but I am going into science. I don't believe that there's any like genetic component to it. Because I've met too many people who were dumb then became really smart, and too many people who were smart and became really dumb. I think it's just your curiosity and like what you do. I think it's also worth mentioning because I feel like a lot of people might say this. Yeah, I think it's true that like the reality is that Kid B, who has the high grades, is probably a really curious person. I know a lot of people who are either went to top schools or are currently at them, and they are very curious people. So I think that is worth mentioning. Like in a realistic scenario, things would probably be a lot more even. But I just want to, that's the whole thing here. Be curious, guys. Just be curious. The painting's done. So what I want to do was basically the same thing as yesterday. I really like doing that face. I thought it had a lot of expressiveness to it. I think it had emotion. And you know, okay, so this is a big thing with me with art. I think it's important to give, like, I think art should be rough around the edges. Not in the sense that it should be bad in any regard, but I think you need to give people something to grab onto in it. And when I do the faces that I did yesterday, and I did another one earlier, I feel like they're cool, not because they're like good, but because there's something they grab onto in them, and I really like that fact. So that's why I'm doing another face. I hope you guys like it. It's not very good, but I still think like there's some sort of visual interest, and I'm probably gonna make another one tomorrow if I feel like it, because I think there's like something in there that I want to get to of why do these have an emotion to them, and something in them that makes me grab onto them that the other paintings I've made don't have. In other words, in simplest terms, I feel this is a direction I want to go in. So go check it out over on the Instagram to see me say that exact same thing, but in written form and probably really badly formatted because I'm tired when I type them out. Until tomorrow, my name is Max. Wait, I always do this. Until tomorrow, guys, gals, and pals. And until tomorrow, guys, gals, and pals, this has been Paint and Talk. Wait, no. And until tomorrow, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice, and this has been Paint and Talk episode 64, 60. We're not doing this. We're not doing this.